before you scroll away.
Know this, people who went into this valley never came back. Not a single one. And what they heard will make you question if you really want to know the truth. In 2003, a group of hikers in southern China walked into a valley that technically wasn't supposed to exist anymore. It didn't appear on modern maps.
There were no road signs pointing toward it.
And when they asked nearby townspeople for directions, the only response they got was silence. Not confusion, not curiosity, just silence. And then one old man finally said something that made every single one of them wish they'd never asked. He said, "If you hear them singing, don't answer. And whatever you do, don't follow the sound." Those hikers were never seen again.
This story is about a place deep in rural China where people don't just go missing.
They vanish. No bodies, no clues, no witnesses. Just empty shoes on dirt roads, abandoned backpacks, and one disturbing detail that keeps showing up in every single case. They all heard the same thing before they disappeared, a chant. The story begins in the Guangxi region of southern China, an area known for dense forests, limestone mountains, and villages so remote that some of them still don't have proper roads connecting them to the outside world. In this region, there's a place locals call Black Mountain Valley. It's beautiful, quiet, and avoided, not because of wild animals, not because of landslides, but because of something people believe lives there. Even experienced hunters refuse to set traps near its borders.
Even children are warned not to wander in that direction.
And when fog rolls down from the mountains and settles between the trees, people close their doors and windows and pretend they don't hear anything outside. For decades, villagers have whispered about a settlement hidden deep inside the valley. Some call it Chenku village. Some say it doesn't have a real name anymore. On old government records from the 1960s, there was a village marked in that area. It had a small population, a school, a marketplace, and a narrow road that connected it to the nearest town. But sometime in the late 1970s, it was quietly removed from official maps. No announcement, no explanation, just gone. The road leading to it was no longer maintained. Signs pointing toward it were taken down.
And within a few years, most people outside the region had completely forgotten it ever existed.
At first, people assumed the village had been abandoned.
During that time, many rural communities were relocated, so it didn't seem strange.
Families were moved, houses were left behind, and nature slowly reclaimed the empty spaces. But there was something different about this place. People didn't just leave, they stopped talking about it. And then people started going missing. The first documented case happened in 1981.
A forestry worker named Liu Wen was sent to survey parts of Black Mountain Valley for logging potential.
He was experienced, cautious, and familiar with dangerous terrain.
He carried proper equipment, kept detailed notes, and followed protocol.
He checked in by radio every evening for 3 days, reporting nothing unusual except that the valley felt strangely quiet, as if even insects avoided it. On the 4th day, there was no call.
A search team was sent out 2 days later when repeated attempts to contact him failed.
They found his tent still standing in a small clearing. His boots were neatly placed outside, as if he had taken them off before going to sleep.
His food supplies were untouched. His tools were lined up carefully near a tree, and his notebook was open to a page with just one sentence written on it. It said, "They're singing again." There were no signs of a struggle. No blood, no broken branches, no footprints leading away from the campsite.
Liu Wen was never found. At the time, officials blamed wildlife or an accident, and the case was quietly closed. His family was told he must have fallen into a ravine or been taken by an animal. But people in nearby villages noticed something else. After Liu Wen disappeared, some of them said they could hear sounds at night coming from the direction of the valley. Low, steady, and rhythmic,
like voices repeating the same phrase over and over again. In 1987, 2 college students from Nanning University decided to explore the valley as part of a photography project.
Their names were Chen Yu and Li Ming. They were interested in abandoned places and had heard rumors about a forgotten village swallowed by the forest. They told friends they planned to spend 3 days hiking, take photos, and come back with material for an exhibition. They never came back. Search teams later found their camera near a dried riverbed several kilometers inside the valley. The bag it was in was torn, but the camera still worked.
The last photo on the roll showed a narrow stone path disappearing into thick fog, and in the corner of the frame, barely visible, was several human-like figures standing between the trees.
But something about them was wrong. They were too tall, too thin, and their faces were blurred. Not by motion, not by focus, just blurred, like the camera couldn't understand what it was looking at. when the photo was later analyzed. Experts said there was no technical reason for that kind of distortion.
From the late 1980s into the early 2000s, at least 17 people are believed to have disappeared in or near Black Mountain Valley. Hikers, hunters, surveyors, even a local delivery driver who took a shortcut through the area and never reached his destination. Some vehicles were found abandoned on dirt roads.
Some campsites were found exactly the way people had left them, as if everyone had simply stood up and walked away at the same time.
And almost every single case shared one strange detail.
Before they vanished, they told someone they heard chanting. Not shouting, not singing, chanting. Low, rhythmic, echoing through the trees. Sometimes so faint it could barely be noticed. Sometimes loud enough to keep people awake at night. In 2003, a small group of amateur hikers decided to document the valley for an online travel forum.
They weren't thrill seekers. They weren't ghost hunters.
They just wanted to explore somewhere untouched and prove that the stories were exaggerated. There were 5 of them, and one of them, a man named Zhang Wei, carried a digital audio recorder to log their trip.
He said it would make the story feel more real when they posted it online later.
That recorder was later found near the edge of the valley, lying in the mud beside a broken branch. On the first day, the recording sounds normal. You can hear wind, footsteps, and occasional laughter.
They joke about getting lost and complain about insects.
On the second day, Zhang's voice sounds different,
Quieter.
more cautious. At one point, he asks if the others can hear something strange. In the background, faint but clear, there's a low, steady chant.
Not in Mandarin. Not in any local dialect experts could identify.
Just voices laid together in a slow, patient rhythm, repeating something over and over again. One of the hikers laughs and says it's probably villagers or monks somewhere in the mountains. But Zhang doesn't laugh.
He says it sounds like it's moving. He says it sounds like it's following them.
The recording continues for another 20 minutes.
The chanting slowly gets louder.
Then there's a moment where everything stops. No footsteps,
No wind. No talking.
just the chant. And then Zhang whispers, asking why it sounds like it's behind them now.
After that, the recording cuts out.
The hikers were never found. In 2004, a journalist from a regional newspaper tried to investigate these disappearances. He interviewed villagers from nearby towns. Most refused to talk. Some shut their doors in his face.
Some told him he was asking the wrong questions and should leave before he got into trouble. But one elderly woman agreed to speak, as long as her name was never used and the interview was not recorded. She said that when she was a child, that village in the valley was real. People lived there,
Traded there, visited there, until one winter, the chanting started. It began at night, soft and far away, like someone singing to themselves in the mountains.
Then it started getting closer.
People who went to investigate didn't come back. And then one morning, the entire village walked out together and disappeared into the forest. The next day, the village was empty. No bodies, no signs of a fight. Food still cooking in pots, doors left open, just gone, as if the place had been abandoned in the middle of a normal day.
When the journalist asked who was chanting, the woman said it wasn't people anymore.
That article was never published. The journalist quit his job shortly after and moved away.
Years later, when someone tried to contact him about the story, he refused to talk and asked never to be contacted again.
In 2009, a government geological team was sent into Black Mountain Valley to survey the area for possible mining. There were 12 people in the group. They had GPS, satellite phones, emergency beacons, and enough supplies for 2 weeks. On the third day, their signal went dark. Rescue teams were sent almost immediately.
Helicopters searched from above, and ground teams followed their last known route. They found the camp.
Tents, equipment, and vehicles were all still there.
A pot of food was still sitting on a portable stove. Maps were still spread out on a table.
But the people were gone.
Inside the main tent, they found a handheld recorder still running, its batteries almost dead.
The last recorded entry was from the team leader.
His voice was shaking as he said they thought it was the wind at first, but it wasn't. He said it was counting, and he thought it was counting them.
In the background of the recording, faint but unmistakable, was the same chant that had been described in so many other cases. Then came the sound of hurried footsteps, someone shouting a name, and then silence. After the geological team vanished, Black Mountain Valley was officially labeled a restricted zone. Signs were put up on the few dirt roads that led toward it, warning people about unstable ground and dangerous terrain.
But locals knew the real reason no one was supposed to go there anymore.
And even with the warnings, people still tried.
Some were curious, some didn't believe the stories.
and some were desperate, hoping to find someone who had disappeared. One of those people was a man named Zhao Peng. His younger brother had been part of the geological team that vanished in 2009.
For 3 years, Zhao tried to get information from local authorities, but every request was denied or ignored.
In 2012, he decided to go himself. He prepared carefully. He brought a camera, extra batteries, food, water, and a satellite phone.
He told his family he would be gone for 2 days. He promised he wouldn't go deep into the valley.
He just wanted to see the camp where his brother had last been and look for anything that had been missed.
Zhao Peng was never seen again, but his camera was. 2 weeks after he disappeared, a group of forestry workers found his backpack near a narrow trail not far from the restricted zone.
Inside, everything was still neatly packed. The camera was still there, and when the memory card was checked, it showed exactly how far he had gone.
The first few photos were normal.
Trees, rocks, the old warning signs, the remains of the geological team's camp. Then the photos changed. They became darker, as if the light itself was being swallowed by the forest. In several of the pictures, there were shapes between the trees.
Tall, thin shapes that didn't look quite human. And in the last photo, taken at dusk, there was a stone archway covered in moss and vines.
Behind it,
there was only darkness, but carved into the stone were symbols that no one could identify.
In the bottom corner of that photo, barely visible, was something else. A hand.
It looked like Zhao's hand, reaching toward the archway.
After that, there were no more pictures. When experts examined the camera, they found something strange.
The final photo had been taken, but the camera hadn't been dropped.
It hadn't been damaged. It had been carefully placed on a rock, facing the archway, as if Zhao wanted someone to see what he was about to walk into. Around the same time, villagers began reporting that the chanting had changed.
Before, it was something you heard deep in the forest, far from homes and roads. Now, some people claimed they could hear it from the edges of their villages at night. Still faint, still distant, but closer than it had ever been before. In 2015, a group of urban explorers from another province tried to sneak past the restricted signs and enter the valley.
They filmed everything and planned to upload it as a documentary-style video series. For the first few hours, their footage showed nothing unusual. Just old paths, thick trees, and jokes about how the place didn't seem scary at all.
Then, in the middle of one clip, the sound changes.
The wind stops, the insects go quiet,
and in the background, you can hear it.
The chant.
At first, it's so low that it almost blends into the static of the camera's microphone.
One of the explorers asks if someone is playing a prank.
Another says it sounds like it's coming from everywhere at once.
They keep walking.
A few minutes later, the chanting is louder.
One of them points the camera toward the trees and zooms in.
Between the trunks, something moves.
The camera shakes.
Someone says they think they saw a face.
Someone else says they think it saw them too. The footage ends with all of them running.
They were never seen again.
The video was never uploaded by them.
It appeared on a small, obscure forum months later, posted by an anonymous account. The account was deleted the same day, and no one has ever claimed responsibility for uploading it.
The original file still exists in fragments, shared and reshared across the internet, always disappearing, always coming back.
Some people say it's fake. Some say it's just clever editing. But those who have analyzed the audio track closely say there are no signs of manipulation.
And there's one more detail most people don't notice at first. In the final seconds of the clip, beneath the sound of running and breathing, you can hear the chant change.
It sounds closer, and it sounds like it's no longer in the forest. It sounds like it's right behind the camera. In 2018, a retired local official finally agreed to speak anonymously about Black Mountain Valley. He said that after the geological team disappeared, there was a closed-door investigation that never became public.
According to him, search teams had found something they couldn't explain.
Deep in the valley, beyond the last marked trails, they found the remains of a stone settlement. Not modern, not ancient either, something in between.
The buildings were simple, but the stonework was precise.
There were no signs of recent life, but there were no signs of abandonment either. It was as if the place had been frozen in time.
And at the center of this settlement, there was a white stone circle carved into the ground. The symbols carved into it were the same ones seen in Zhao Peng's final photograph. The official said some of the team members reported hearing voices while they were there. Not loud, not clear, just whispers that sounded like they were coming from underground.
And he said that one of the search team members became so frightened that he refused to stay in the area and had to be escorted out. Shortly after that discovery, the entire area was sealed off even more tightly.
Maps were updated, records were changed, and any mention of the stone settlement was removed from official reports. The officials said the explanation given behind closed doors was that the area was geologically unstable and unsafe. But he didn't believe that was the real reason. He believed something in that valley was still active.
There are theories about what the chanting could be.
Some say it's a natural phenomenon, caused by wind moving through certain rock formations in a way that creates strange sounds. Others believe it's connected to old rituals, performed by people who once lived there and left something behind.
And then there are those who think it isn't an echo of the past at all,
But something that's still there,
still calling, still waiting for anyone who listens too closely.
every few years, a new rumor appears online about someone who went looking for the village and never came back. Most of these stories are impossible to verify, but sometimes there are photos, sometimes there are short audio clips,
And sometimes there are final messages posted from phones that are never found. One message, posted on a travel forum in 2021, simply said, "I hear it now. It's closer than I expected." The account that posted it has never been active since.
Officially, Black Mountain Valley doesn't exist. The village doesn't exist.
The cases are either unsolved or quietly forgotten.
But the disappearances continue to be whispered about by people who live nearby. And the chant, according to them, never really stopped. It just learned how to wait.
Because every story about this place ends the same way. Someone hears something they shouldn't,
Someone follows it.
and someone never comes back.
And maybe the most disturbing part isn't that people disappear there. Maybe it's that whatever is calling them seems to know exactly who will listen.
If you want more stories of the unexplained, disappearances, and mysteries that chill the mind,
Make sure to like this video. Leave a comment with the story that scared you the most, and subscribe to Mystery Spectrumus. Every day, we dive into the unknown, so don't miss the next one.